Chapter 59. Touch some grass. Summary. The gang finally gets some outside time. Maybe they'll have time for a game. The ship rumbled as they touched down. Denki let out a sigh as Izuku felt the tension drain out of his body. They'd actually found a designated ship parking lot to land in, but that meant trying not to hit other ships, which was nerve-wracking. They couldn't even drive back home yet they were landing a whole spaceship? With 0 lessons, keep in mind. "Let's get this over with," Kachan grumbled as they got ready to depart. After some discussion, they decided to land on a nearby planet for a few hours, to restock and stretch their legs. Some more reluctantly than others. But Kachan could continue to be a grumpy puss for all he cared. He just wanted to get outside. Izuku double-checked every part of his costume was on properly. Yep, everything looked right. His thought dump notebook was in his left thigh bag and his shield was secured on his arm. So far, it was only collapsible, but as soon as they got their lab up and running, he'd be changing that. As the ship door opened with a pressurized hiss, Izuku took a deep breath of fresh air. It didn't have that sweet undertone he'd gotten used to on Oxyus, but it was still better than the recycled air of their ship. His skin tickled as bright sunlight washed over him. This planet was on the warmer side, due to its 2 suns, but right now, it was a welcomed heat. He didn't realize how much he'd miss the subtle changes in weather each day, until they'd spent a week in perfect climate control. His high tops clicked against concrete as he hopped out, a bright blue sky welcoming him from above. A pressure he hadn't even realized had settled in his head faded away now that he was outside those metal walls. Soon, everyone but Denki was out and basking in the open air. "One sec," Denki called, dipping into the ship. "I just need to set the Roombas to patrol the inside." As Denki hopped out of the ship, the door slid closed, and Ochako asked, "Why did you release the Roombas?" "Roomba security system is best security system," Mei recited, locking the ship and activating the last security measures. They couldn't really afford to get ship-jacked, so they'd gone all out. While they were away, the Roombas, even the more dangerous ones like Swordy, would protect the inside, while more standard measures would secure the ship from the outside. The others seemed to accept the tech squad's weirdness as they began walking out of the oven-like parking lot. "So, where are we headed first?" Mina asked. A bounce present in her step Izuku hadn't seen for days. "I think it's best if we get what we need for the lab and gym first," Izuku said, finger tapping against his chin. "Then we can grab groceries and refuel. After, if someone is less grumpy, we could go touch some grass before we leave." "I'm just trying to keep us on track. If you guys want to waste time, I don't care," Katsuki fumed. "Yay, grass!" Denki cheered, ignoring the explosive blonde's scowl. A smile spread on Izuku's face. "Can you bring up the directions, Ochako?" And with that, they were off. There was a slight thread of anxiety tugging in Izuku's chest at being in a city, but overall, he was ecstatic. They walked through wide streets. Izuku kept a watchful eye out for anything suspicious, but also for anything interesting he could point out to the others. The whole place was full to bursting with color and warmth, and Izuku reveled in it like never before. In no time, they'd arrived at some sort of hardware store. Mei and Ochako took the lead, getting everything they needed to build up the lab. They'd also grabbed materials to build some workout machines. After repairing a ship, Izuku's sure they can figure it out. Being on the small side of sentience, it would be much harder to find machines that were the right size for them. And even if they could use the bigger machines, they were tight for space, so, in this case, smaller was better. The 8 of them shuffled to the counter to pay, arms overflowing with metal beams, countertops, a small pot for whatever reason, and wood, all because someone had forgotten to grab a cart at the entrance, so it quickly turned into a challenge to see if they could carry all of the stuff in one go. The sentient at the payment counter looked at them with startled amusement as he rang them up in silence. Izuku was stretching out his arms, checking for any splinters from the plywood when his attention was quickly drawn to Denki. "Guys, look!" the electric blonde said, pointing at a TV playing ads behind the counter. "Space Ikea!" Izuku turned his head to look at the TV. He'd been expecting some sort of large furniture store that was similar to Ikea from Earth, but as he stared at the distinctive yellow lettering on the blue background, he was corrected. It was Ikea. Like, literally. It looked exactly like an Ikea. The screen changed to show the inside of the store, and yep, that was just Ikea in space. As it panned through, he saw the cafeteria with their trademark Swedish meatballs, the kid pen he'd spent many an hour in when he was younger. He still swears that the ball pit was some kind of secret passage to another world. And the large warehouse at the end where you'd pick out the things you wanted. What in the fuck? Was Ikea started by aliens? It had been around since before the dawn of quirks, so did that mean that aliens knew about Earth since then? There was no way it was coincidence. It was an exact replica of an Ikea on Earth, just with some space furniture. "We have to go there!" Denki squealed, jumping up and down. "What?" Vestal questioned. "Ikea? Oh gods, it's even pronounced the same." "OMG, we totally have to go," Mina agreed. She turned towards the poor cashier. "Where's the nearest space Ikea?" The teen spluttered. "We don't have any near here. This is a kind of backwater planet, if you hadn't already noticed. Too hot and all. The TV says the closest one is a moon like a week away." "So far?" Denki whined. "Wait," Ochako hummed. "A moon? Does it take up the whole moon?" "Yeah," the guy said. "I hear they're so big you could get lost for days." "We definitely have to go," Mina cheered, pumping her fist in the air. Izuku sighed. He had to say, he was intrigued to go check out Space Ikea. It was really weird. Maybe it's a sign of other humans that have been in space. They can't have been the first abducted by traffickers after all. Or it could be a sign that aliens have peacefully visited Earth before. Either way, he wanted to figure it out. "If it's on the way, I don't see any reason we couldn't check it out," he said, eliciting a cheer from Mina and Denki, and a tired sigh from Kachan. They finished paying for their stuff and hauled it back to the ship before setting off to get groceries, which was much less chaotic, unless you count Kachan trying to barter with the stall owners in the farmers' market they found themselves in. Once that was done, Katsuki and Mei paid for fuel, while Mina and the siblings downloaded some music. Thank the gods! Off the planet's internet, and Ochako looked up a park for them to walk around. "This one looks nice," the gravity girl said. "And it's the second closest." So it was decided. After everyone was back together, they set out under the midday sun. The park stretched along a large area of the town. A few trees provided shade to the odd passerby. Winding trunks intertwined, weaving in and out of one another, before combining at the top and sprouting fan-like orange leaves. "Yay, grass!" Denki shouted, flopping down onto the emerald expanse. Izuku and the others quickly followed suit. Grass tickled his cheeks as he laid on his back, staring into the cloudless blue sky. He could feel the tension begin to leach out of him, but there was still an itch under his skin that hadn't gone away. Suddenly, he felt a tap on his shoulder and a familiar bubbly giggle. Tag! You're it, Deku! Ochako shouted, already halfway down the field. A fierce smile spread across his face. The other teens were already scrambling away by the time he'd hopped up to his feet. Well, all but one. Oh, Kachan! Izuku sing-songed, approaching the blonde still sat on the grass. Fuck off, shitty Deku. I'm not playing, he barked. Is Kachan too scared he'll get caught? Izuku asked with a sharp grin. He knew exactly what he was doing. He also knew that Kachan really needed this. Of fucking course I'm not! Well, you better start running. And remember, no quirks. Katsuki bolted off, a middle finger raised on his way out. Izuku just chuckled and turned towards the siblings. You guys want to play? It's a children's game where one person is it and chases the others to transfer the it. That sounds terrifying. No thanks, Pyarpa chirped before continuing to write in his notebook. Fastel just nodded wearily, snaking their tail around their brothers. Izuku just shrugged, turning back to eye the others sprinting away. Without hesitation, he surged forward, feet quickly finding their rhythm even on slightly squishy ground. His joints creaked ever so slightly at the sudden movement, but he pushed his body even faster. His eyes locked on the closest target, and Izuku made a beeline for Denki. He could feel the dry air lift his hair, streaming behind him as he ran. The grass dipped slightly every time his high tops made contact, but he wouldn't let that trip him up. Denki's eyes widened once it became clear Izuku was gunning for him. The blonde scrambled away, but even without his quirk, Izuku was built for speed. Tag! Izuku shouted, as he tapped a startled Denki on the shoulder, not even breaking his stride as he ran past. Izuku couldn't help the laugh that broke free from his chest. Gods, this felt so good. He glanced behind him and saw Denki quickly gaining on Mei, before the pink-haired gremlin pulled a grappling hook from one of her many pockets and ascended a tree. No fair, Denki whined, but Mei just grinned maniacally at him. No one said no babies. The six of them played until they were all gasping and out of breath. Despite the fire in his lungs, burning in his calves, and light scrapes on his knees from when he had fallen in escaping Ochako, Izuku couldn't stop smiling. At this rate, his face was going to start hurting along with the rest of him. It was just... playing tag had conjured up a childlike joy he hadn't felt in so long. Even back at UA, he didn't get to feel like a kid a lot. They were training to be heroes, Japan's next generation of role models, and the first and last defense against evil. Their schedules were packed, leaving little time for simple things. Izuku's chest heaved as he collapsed on the ground with a smile. That was exactly what he needed. The clawing itch was finally gone. No more bubbling pressure under his skin, threatening to spill out. Most likely in the form of punching a wall or eating whatever he happened to be holding when it finally boiled over. He could finally feel the underlying restless energy fade from his body. Someone flopped next to him. From the grunt, he'd guessed Kachan. The little gust of air that came with a thud ruffled his wind-tousled hair. The others quickly joined them on the ground, the sound of heavy breathing and the buzz of whatever bugs this planet had filling the air. That was terrifying, Fastel said as they approached, Pyarpa at their side. You said that's a children's game? No wonder your species is so messed up. Hey, Mina pouted. I'm sure other species have similar games, like, predatory species, or whatever. I think that some animals back home play fight when they're young and learning to hunt. Fastel just looked directly at her, deadpanned. Terrifying. Izuku chuckled as the two siblings settled down with them. This was so nice. We should do this more often, he offered. "Even if it's just once a week. I think it'd be good for us to get off the ship for a few hours." "Yeah," Denki sighed, carting his hands through green strands. "I'll miss the grass too much." At that, Ochako sat up, a weird grin on her face. "Who says you'll have to miss it?" She then proceeded to plunge her hand into the soft ground and pull out a fistful of grass and dirt. With her other hand, she reached into her thigh bag and revealed the little pot that had somehow found its way into their shopping haul. The grass and the pot became one as she plopped the earth hunk down. "Ta-da!" A little baffled giggle escaped Izuku's throat. "Why, Ocha? Why?" "I thought that since we have a planet from Oxyus, why not grab something from here? The ship is still a little empty, so plants might make it feel more natural and full while we're stuck inside." Izuku had to admit, the idea of the kiddo full of plants and life was nice. But there was a problem. How will we keep it alive? This planet is a little hotter than our ship, so it might not be able to survive. Ochako hummed and thought. "Well, I'm sure that there are plenty of weird space inventions that could probably help, but we could also just put it in a hotter corner. The engine and other machines give off heat, so I'm sure there's somewhere this little guy will like." "It should work," Fastel mused, "though we should probably get some biome planters." Mina beamed. "That sounds perfect! Collecting a plant from every planet we go to would be so cool!" She paused for a moment, eyeing the grass lump. "But maybe let's choose something a little nicer next time." "Sure," Ochako acquiesced. "But to do that, we'll have to keep stopping every little while to get more plants." Ochako looked at Katsuki with an intense eye. He glared at her. "Come on, Kachan," Izuku tried. "Please?" Technically, they didn't need his permission, but it would make things so much easier if they were all on the same page. Sounds of pleading from the others echoed at the blonde, but he still stayed silent. Not even Pyerpa's adorable little trills broke the blonde. Izuku turned his head, grass tickling his nose, to look at Kachan. The boy let out a huff, no doubt feeling the eyes on him. "Fucking fine," Kachan grumbled, but Izuku heard the undertone of relief. The constant confinement had worn on them. Even someone as stubborn as Kachan would have to admit it. "But you'll be the one explaining to Hobo-sensei and the others why it took so long to get back." Izuku's breath hitched, and he ignored as Kachan gave him a weird look. This was as good a time as any. Probably on the better side, even. He had sorted things out with himself, and he knew it was time to tell the others, but it was still hard to force the words out. But eventually, he managed a very suspicious, "Haha, it kind of is." He heard some rustling and felt eyes on him. He swallowed past the lump in his throat. "So, there's something I need to tell you guys. Before I got One for All back, apparently using their quirks, All Might and my father found a way to enter the void of One for All and talk to the ghosts. And they'll be trying to do that again any day now, so they can talk to me." "What?" Ochako gasped, putting her grass pot on the ground. The others made similar sounds of shock and excitement. Izuku knew what this meant for them. A way to contact Earth. A way to contact their loved ones. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Izuku winced. "It's just, well, when I said my father was also there." "Wait, why the fuck was Uncle there? Doesn't he have a shitty fire-breathing quirk?" Kachan asked. "Yeah," Izuku said, rolling forward to sit up and face the others. "He has a fire-breathing quirk. And a whole lot of others." Izuku paused for a second to let that sink in. Apparently my father is all for one. Surprise! He weakly cheered. The others were silent. Izuku couldn't help but curl in on himself. Excuse me, the fuck? Denki blurted out. Yeah, Izuku said, knees drawn into his chest. The vestiges told me the night we got on the ship. And by told me, I mean Yoshi said that he was my uncle and that he only had one sibling. Yeesh, Mei exclaimed. I'm not even that bad. Izuku sighed. Such a fun way to find out that the father I thought had left because I was quirkless was actually a 200-year-old supervillain who loves me, but was lacking in the face department. Well, it's nice your supervillain dad loves you. Maybe he'll lay off the attempted child murder and world domination if you use your puppy eyes on him. Denki awkwardly attempted. Thanks, Izuku said. Okay. Everything seemed to be okay so far. Denki and Mei certainly didn't care. The others were still quiet, though. What the fuck? Kachan said blandly, staring up into the sky. Uncle Hisashi. Seriously? The guy couldn't even kill bugs. I don't know what to say, Gachan. How? The same guy we baked shitty brownies with is the mastermind behind the League. Izuku winced at the reminder. When a cool weight rested on his shoulder, he turned to see Pyerpa patting him. Izuku had a feeling the boy was a little lost with the evil plot talk, but he appreciated the comfort regardless. Fastel just gave an awkward thumbs up. Are you okay? Mina asked. Izuku blinked. I think so. I've thought a lot about it and kind of come to terms with it. Guess you've been a villain magnet since birth, Denki teased, and Izuku couldn't help but smile at the lightening mood, relaxing back into the grass. He didn't notice the one voice that stayed silent.